You've arrived at a very stellar time of my life. Terastallization is such a strange mechanic when you really think about it. Ever since Mega Evolution was introduced, every region in the mainline Pokemon games has brought with it a new mechanic to make your team more powerful, giving them an edge in battle and leading to some interesting world building for the Pokemon universe. Megas go beyond evolution, taking power from the embodiments of life and death. Z-moves break the limits of attacks using the light of an interdimensional invader. Dynamax reinforces your defenses, taking control of an alien threat. Terastallization... Shiny hat. And this shiny hat is canonically from this thing, Terapagos. Our little gem of a tortoise was first discovered by us in Scarlet and Violet's DLC expansion, the Indigo Disc. And by in, I mean right at the end for like 5 minutes. Now that's not being completely genuine, but it can't be denied that even after being the headline act to a DLC and being a key piece of storytelling in the Pokemon Horizons anime, we still don't really know Terapagos. And that doesn't feel nice, so I'm taking it upon myself, as I usually do, to write a new legend in this Pokemon story. But I think we should all get on the same page first and see what we're working with already. To TLDR the lore of Terapagos, over 2 million years ago, Terapagos were pretty common in Paldea. According to the Pokédex, drastic changes in Paldea's landmass caused the species to brink on extinction, with many believing the entire species to disappear. However, one brave little boy managed to protect himself by crystallizing his own body, hiding deep underground. In his rest, this Terapagos inexplicably caused Paldea to grow these strange and mystical cysts all across what would become Area Zero. This was the beginning of the terrestrial phenomenon, which slaps a glitter filter on a Pokemon and gives them a nice crown that changes their elemental type. These same crystals would become the object of obsession for a researcher, Heath. You know Heath, we love Heath, Heath's crazy. 200 years ago, the Area Zero expedition team went into the Great Crater of Paldea, where they found some pretty janky looking dinosaurs or robots, really depends if you're a summer or winter, and our little MacGuffin, Terapagos. Heath wrote about everything in his little Scarlet or Violet journal, making a big bad dragon the cover because he knew his audience. After the book got published, no one really believed his findings, which included the first depictions of our sparkly world tortoise. Over time, the terrestrial phenomenon began to sweep over Paldea. Years passed, and problematic faves rediscovered Terapagos in the deepest cave of Area Zero thanks to Heath's book. After basically infesting Area Zero with a bunch of Paradox Pokemon, this ain't about them though, I'm pretty sure Terapagos wasn't feeling too well, even in their sleep. 10 years later, you revealed the secrets of Area Zero as an assistant to a descendant of Heath, Briar, who just wanted to prove her great-great-grandpappy wasn't a hag. You ventured into the depths of the crater, where you revealed that very same Terapagos. Oh, and those two are there. Great, very helpful guys. After that whole ordeal, Briar published her own book, making Terapagos publicly known. And if you head to Kitagami's crystal pool alongside this Terapagos, a familiar face might start the cycle all over again. Oh, that's a paradox. So I have a few problems with this story. Of course I do, like that's the video. My first is that none of this really serves Terapagos as a Pokemon species. They're more a vehicle for the story of the explorers, Heath, Briar's family problems. We're told Terapagos existed en masse, but the story never really treats our Terapagos with any real agency. Just a plot device, which could be intentional. We'll go into it later. But this is a recurring issue I have with more recent legendary Pokemon. Not all of them, but they're there. And one of the reasons I started looking at legends like this in the first place. Give them a little spritz. Pizzazz. A sparkly hat. I don't know how we're gonna do this one, little buddy, but let's see what you're based on to give it a good college try. In the past, I researched the Basque culture, found in Spain when it came to Paldea. In those stories, I found that Koraidon and Miraidon, the most prevalent legendary Pokemon in Paldea's story, were potentially inspired by this great fiery or thunderous dragon called Sugar. In those stories, Sugar acted as a great protector and consort to the Basque Mother Nature figure, Mari, a name that could be derived from Emari, gift, or the Christian Maria. Now, while I do have an argument for their role in their stories being very similar, with the aggressive dragon potentially protecting the professor's legacy and Sugar protecting Mari, the biggest disconnect between the shell and the lady is that usually she's depicted in red, or represented by a mountain-dwelling animal like a horse or a cow, not this little doodad. So if we're talking more design inspiration and treating Terapagos as its own thing, we're going to need to look further afield. So how about that name? Terapagos. Terra is vague, but has its roots in a bunch of things. Terra is Latin for Earth, but also the name of the primeval Roman goddess who acted as Mother Nature. It could also be the astronomical meaning, being a great landmass within the solar system, which would make sense for this thing's signature attack being Terra's Starstorm. Pagos could come from Galapagos, as in the Galapagos tortoise, because it certainly isn't Spanish, which may have been another major inspiration for this legend's story and their design. Historically, Charles Darwin, of Charles Darwin fame, visited the Galapagos Islands and recorded some astute recordings of these tortoises. This was during 1835, when Darwin was developing his theory of evolution. He observed this in various species across the islands. He noticed key differences between the tortoise shells that would become leading factors in how Darwin could explain different traits being developed based on generational development in different environments. Kind of familiar, right? Now, the well-conditioned elephant in the room is all these different forms. From first glance, these forms are pretty different from the twerp that we only ever see in our overworld or our party menu. They're a lot fluffier and more sparkly. Shocking nobody, these are pretty specific traits in mythology and legend, and ones that we do have some stories to share with. Terrestrial form Terapagos could take inspiration from the rainbow-shelled turtle found in the tale of Urashima Taro. There's a few variations, classic folklore stuff, but the gist of it is that a fisherman called Urashima Taro saves a rainbow-colored turtle or minogame from a few thoughtless kids. The following day, that turtle, or another one, either way it's bigger and hairier, invites Taro to the dragon palace deep beneath the sea, where he learns that the turtle he saved was actually the daughter of the dragon god, Otohime. Stellar form Terapagos is a very clear depiction of what we can unanimously call the world turtle, especially if we consider Heath's little art project over here. This is a beast you can find in a variety of cultures and mythos that is said to carry the world, hey, that's us, on its back. In China, the creator goddess Nuwa cut the legs off the turtle and hung the sky up with its shell. In India, it is known as the chukwa, and in Zulu folklore, a creature called the Usilosa Mapundu bears a striking resemblance. This is a creature that's supposed to explain how we exist, an ancient understanding of why we move in the space that surrounds us. Very poetic. Now, what I realize none of this explains is there's still a time in our lives. The answer is actually quite simple and sweet. In ancient practices like feng shui or Vastu Shastra, the crystal turtle is an ornament that brings longevity, stability, and wealth to your home. Different minerals offer different blessings. So this all begs the question, what should I do with all of that? We've got a slew of ancient civilizations to pull from, some parables that teach us kindness and virtue, even some science to back up what we know today. But an underlying theme I want to carry out is obsession. It's somewhat unspoken in Scarlet and Violet, but every scientist who researched Terapagos, the terrestrial phenomenon, or the associated paradoxes, they all became completely obsessed. I do wonder if that is more intentional than they let on. Well, I think it's about time you listen to what I've put together, and let me know what you think. Here is the story of the Opaline Gems. Agate's gift of stability, Lapis's gift of wisdom, Diamond's gift of pure love. The properties those crystals gift us with are no mere coincidence. Superstition begets truth, truth begets purpose. Purpose is the gift of the Opaline Gems, long gone. There was once a country that was luscious, green, a land where these gems grazed upon fine blades and bore prosperity to the soil, a great bounty of reason, a reason that found itself nurturing many animals, whether they thrived in verdant fields, the rugged passes, or the sky above. That reason was why they awoke and slept. That reason was for possibilities to be endless, a stellar present from beyond the firmament, a reason that drove into the soil and made scars deep below. The opaline gems scurried as they shone. They burrowed and tilled as the reason's cracks began to grow. That land began to falter. The possibilities collapsed great mountains and buried fresh streams. From the cracks came great crystals that glowed rainbow in the mists. When the quakes stopped, the gems were gone. No grazing on fresh blades. Only prismatic ores where they had burrowed away. Eras passed, and not a chirp about those toddling gems was made. Humans grew from the chaos that swelled from deep within that country. They grew to question, pondering the crystalline cysts that now laid upon their land. Those rocks were beautiful, though. They shone an undoubtable spirit into those who took the light in stride. Undoubtedly, a reason. One curious woman, a woman with a love for nature's harsh truths, questioned endlessly. She dug into the swelling soil. She dug at the root of a burning amber-lit cyst. She dug and dug and dug. She dug so far that she could no longer see the blue sky above. That meant little to her, for her face was lit by the never-seen crystallized root that hid itself from a millennia of change. That opaline shine that no human had truly ever known. She dusted it, but it did not quiver. She prodded it, but it did not cringe. She did not know what to make of such a still object. So she took it. She snapped it free from the crystalline root and plopped it in her satchel, ready to climb out from the hole she had dug so deep. When she reached the light, she took the opaline gem from her bag, shining the shell in the dusk sky. It was so undeniably beautiful, stronger than any luster from those cysts. Those colors were more vibrant than any dye, and more hopeful than any hymn. She had to know. She had to know exactly what this gem was, and how it made her feel these boundless feelings. For she felt impossible. She ran home and took a pick and raised it to the opaline gem. And she lowered it. She stumbled, gazing into the gem's core. That hope was coming from two tiny, closed eyes, and a smile that could only ever brighten that dim-lit home. Could she truly pick apart such a strange smiling gem? One that gave her such incandescent delight? She decided to leave it still at her bedside, letting the prism light up the ceiling as she dozed off into the night. That morning, the birds chirped a beautiful tune through that curious woman's window, a celebrant tune, one that pleased her as she awoke to a giant opaline gem at her bedside. It had reached for her. It called out to her. That tiny, small light hidden within the gemstone's core. Now bright, gently caressing her locks. She did not leap, for her fear would bear no answer. She laid in that celebrant tune. She laid as the great opaline gem smiled at her. It shone a myriad colours. That room had never known so many hues. That heart that hid in the facts. She reached out in her fear and took the great opaline gem's head in her palm. What are you? We do not know if this is a beauty that existed with the grass-grazing gems of eras long gone. What we do know is that these two shared a bond from that day that would lead to a certain kind of greatness. The woman laid her great opaline gem upon a mantle. It became the object that she built her home around. She would leave the house and return twice richer. She would leave the house and return thrice greater. She saw how the gem chirped as the gold sat upon its feet. This had to be the reason. She never knew she had waited for. The gem simply smiled as she made this a routine evermore. As wind carried time far beyond her grasp, the woman laid at her bedside, gazing at that great opaline gem. She decorated it with rubies, ambers, sapphires, emeralds, agates, jades, diamonds, pearls, the greatest gemstones she could buy. This was all for that vice she called reason. She had squandered for such boonful bounties for her gorgeous mental. She simply smiled. Her love for the truth buried beneath meritless fortune. The long, tendrilled fibers that laid from the gem's neck were her comfort in that lonely, gilded house. A comfort to her ignorance of the great reason those gems once bore. Ages passed, letters laid still at her door, windows crusted shut with crystal. She had long forsaken her life that had been driven for the truth. For the truth was now in those beautiful opaline eyes. It was only when the crystals emanated a deep, depressed obsidian that she was found with an empty crystal bowl. In her reason that had become so hollow, her object saw no light to shine. It is a pity, truly, for she could have been the one to share such a gift with the world. It is a pity, truly, for she could have been the one to teach that omnipotent reason with the world. And where would that great opaline gem be in this fragile, hollow world? Wherever that glimmer shines, it solemnly smiles. Hi, I hope you liked my story. If you enjoyed my little mixtape, feel free to check out my other Pokemon lore and legend videos. And if you want to make me smile today, you can support me by liking the video you've just watched, or on Ko-fi, where you can not only donate, but download a copy of my book of Pokemon-inspired legends, Tales Once Lost. Follow my socials, subscribe to see what I get up to, and maybe, just maybe, we can see each other again.